But I do believe, based on what he has said, that he is a socialist. Have you seen what he's saying? He wants to nationalise the commanding heights of the British economy, remove the two-child limit, indulge in other giveaways of stunning profligacy. These proposals, look at them, are way to the left economically of the Corbyn-MacDonald manifesto of 2017. And this is why I joined the Conservatives. I care about this country. I've had an extraordinary life here. My parents have had a great life here. I don't know if it was mentioned in the intro, I played in 2 Olympic Games for Britain in table tennis. Don't call it ping pong, we get very, very offended. Even worse, whiff-waff. We don't. But the reason I joined is simple. I think Kemi Badenoch, I had no incentive to join the party. Kemi Badenoch is the only leader who is articulating the true nature of the challenge we face. But let me make, if I may, a strategic point. The Shadow Cabinet and others who are going to be speaking from this stage, I think it's a risk to spend too much time condemning the Labour government, despite their very real failures. People out there in the country aren't listening. Not now. Those kinds of comments will get a huge ovation in this hall. But what do we need? We need to win the next general election. And to change, avert the decline that I've described. I think if I may say so, what the public wishes for is contrition. A certain type of penitence. A genuine sense that the Tory Party understands the scale of its own failures. Then I believe the British public will listen again. And this is a note of optimism to finish on. In the 1960s and 1970s, Labour and the Conservatives moved too far to the left, did they not? Wilson, Callaghan, Heathism, and it took a rather impressive woman to deliver the vital correction. You know what I'm talking about. This task today falls to another impressive woman. Give her time. Don't chase short-term polls. Play the long game. That should be a leitmotif of this party. With discipline and intelligence, I think it is not impossible. In fact, I think it is likely that you will win the next general election and reverse the decline of a great nation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the leader of the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party, Russell Findlay.
Hello, conference. How fantastic it is to be here with you again. Almost exactly 1 year ago, I was elected leader of the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party. And just a few weeks after that, the outstanding Kemi Badenoch was elected as our UK leader. Now, we both knew that we had a tough fight on our hands. We knew then, just as we know now, that we are fighting for the future of our great country. And let me tell you this, we are up for this scrap. Because left in the hands of Labour and the SNP, the United Kingdom's future would be bleak, weaker and divided, smaller and poorer. Under the left-wing policies of Keir Starmer and John Swinney, the only growth would be the debt left to future generations. I want our young people to have hope for the future. Our party and our country believe in the power of aspiration. We stand for something that no other party truly does, and that is advancing opportunity for those willing to work hard, reaping the rewards for hard graft. We stand for the strivers, we stand for those who create jobs and wealth, and conference, that is why we are in this fight. That's why the Conservative and Unionist Party must and will emerge even stronger. And where we seek a stronger and fairer economy, Labour thinks very differently. They want everyone to pay more tax, except perhaps for Angela Rayner. Labour have broken so many promises. All that's left of their manifesto are photographs of Sir Keir Starmer in clothes that someone else has paid for, standing next to people who he's sacked or people who he really should sack. And then there's the SNP. Now, Scotland can lay claim to some of the great thinkers and pioneers of yesteryear. The country of Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, of David Hume, the great moral philosopher, and the many Scots who helped to forge the great British Empire. But under the SNP, yes, I was a fan of the Empire. But under the SNP, Scotland has become a laboratory for weird and wacky policies. For the SNP, there is no policy that can be too harmful, half-baked, or unhinged. From rent controls to a basic universal income to a 4-day working week. If it's woke, they want it. They embrace every madcap idea known to man and woman. Yes, yes, conference, man and woman, because we Conservatives know there are two genders. Not just two, not 2 dozen, as the SNP would have us believe. And the architect of the SNP's gender self-ID law was Nicola Sturgeon. You remember her? And an arch opponent of it was Kemi Badenoch. Our party killed it stone dead. And now Nicola Sturgeon is quitting the Edinburgh Parliament, which you might want to call a political jailbreak. But friends, please don't get too carried away, because I want to warn you, I have to warn you, the new SNP leader, John Swinney, only offers more of the same division and decay. He was not Nicola Sturgeon's obedient deputy. He's been obsessed with breaking up the United Kingdom from the age of 15. He probably reckons that Braveheart was a documentary. And if you'll please indulge me, I'm going to reference Mel Gibson's famous Braveheart battle cry of freedom, because that word actually sums up what next year's vital Scottish Parliament election is really all about. The people of Scotland don't want independence, but they do want greater freedom. That's the freedom to keep more of their hard-earned money, not pay more tax than people in the rest of Britain for doing the same job. Small businesses want freedom from the SNP's relentless barrage of rules and regulations. Ordinary people want freedom to speak openly, not constrained by Humza Yousaf's chilling hate crime law. And it really is a great irony that the so-called Party of Independence has trashed so many of our freedoms. As the Party of the Union, we want to give back freedom and control to the people of Scotland. Control over their own lives, their own decisions, their own money. And that's what we proudly stand for as Scottish Conservatives and Unionists. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Leader of the Welsh Conservatives in the Senedd, Darren Miller.
Conference, Pranawn da Cynhadledd. Good afternoon to you all. It's an absolute delight to be able to follow Russell Finlay, who is leading the fight for the Union and against the SNP up in Scotland. In Wales, alongside the Shadow Wales team in Westminster, Ms Davies and Olivia Bloomfield, we are fighting that same battle for our precious United Kingdom. Because one thing that we Conservatives know all too well is that left-wing governments, whether they are in Scotland, Wales or Westminster, do not work. Now, friends, I'm a patriotic, true blue Welsh Conservative. I am proud to be Welsh. There are a few others here as well, I can see. But I am proud to be Welsh, and I am proud to be British too. I'm not ashamed of our national flags or our history. I was born just down the road at Hope Hospital in Salford. And because of that, I still have hope in my heart for the future of Wales and our precious United Kingdom. I was brought up in a working class family on the North Wales coast. And I can tell you, my parents taught me about the value of hard work, a decent education, spending within your means, never letting things go to waste, and getting value for money. They were Labour voters until they saw the light, because eventually they realised what everybody is starting to realise, and that is that the party that really stood for their values was our Conservative Party. And those values hold as true today as they did when I was growing up. Because freedom and personal responsibility matter. And a new generation here in the United Kingdom is discovering and embracing these values for themselves, thanks to champions of freedom like the late Charlie Kirk. Now, friends, I am sorry to say this, but when I paid tribute to Charlie Kirk in the Welsh Parliament just a few weeks ago, I was heckled by left-wing politicians, including a Welsh Labour government minister. Those attitudes are shameful. And I want to say this to Erica, Charlie's widow. We Conservatives will continue to fight for the freedoms that Charlie championed, because that's what we are about, freedom. Friends, I'm a man on a mission to fix Wales, because after 26 long years of Labour rule, Wales is broken. Our NHS isn't working, our school standards have fallen, and our economy is struggling. But instead of fixing these problems, we have a Welsh Labour government that has focused on all of the wrong things. They've frittered away millions on 20-mile-an-hour default speed limits, solar-powered boats for the Wampi tribe in Peru, gender-neutral tree planting in Uganda, whatever on earth that means, and a nation of sanctuary plan that spends tens of millions of pounds on immigration, an issue for which the Welsh Government is not even responsible. And it includes spending a small fortune even on those who arrive in the United Kingdom illegally. So, friends, we must strengthen our borders, and that is why I unreservedly back Kemi Badenoch's plan to leave the ECHR and deport all foreign criminals. But you know, perhaps the biggest example of how out of touch our political opponents in Wales actually are is the £120 million that they are wasting on more politicians in Cardiff Bay. Well, let me tell you, conference, Wales needs more doctors, dentists, nurses and teachers. It does not need more politicians. And that is why the Welsh Conservatives will reverse the change. And it's not the only thing we're going to scrap, because just last week, the former Labour First Minister, Vaughan Gething, do you remember him? Yeah, we're trying to forget about him as well. Well, he tried to vote in Senedd proceedings from his car. Can you believe it? Yes, his car. Now, I've got a message for Vaughan. The voters of Wales elect members of the Senedd to the Welsh Parliament, not to their sofas, not to their armchairs, and certainly not behind the wheel of their cars. The pandemic is over, and it's time that work-from-home practices for members of the Senedd came to an end. But it's not just Labour that has broken Wales. Plaid Cymru and the Liberal Democrat, there's only one in the Senedd, are equally to blame. For a quarter of a century, whenever Labour needed votes to pass another dreadful budget or an ill-thought-out law, Plaid or the Lib Dems were there to prop them up. And now, Welsh Labour is hatching yet another stitch-up with Plaid Cymru to give us more of the same reheated, failed, nutrition-lacking socialist fare that Wales is sick and tired of eating. But this time, with a side order of dangerous nationalism. And I say dangerous because Plaid's extremism and nationalism is just that. They want to tear Wales from the United Kingdom. They want to draw a slate curtain across the border between England and Wales. A curtain which could end the right to live, work, study and trade anywhere in the UK. Their plans would cost the average Welsh working family thousands each and every single year. So let me be clear. Plaid Cymru is a risk to Welsh jobs, pensions and our economic prosperity. But they are not the only risk at the next Senedd election. Reform is a risk too. A personality cult with pie-in-the-sky wish lists of expensive things that they want to do and no plan whatsoever to pay for it. Just days ago, their former leader in Wales, Nathan Gill, admitted to taking bribes to make pro-Russian statements in the European Parliament. He's now facing years, quite rightly, in prison. But these stories should come as no surprise. Why? Because Nigel Farage himself has also cozied up to the Russians, speaking of his admiration for Vladimir Putin, and even pushed the outrageous Russian propaganda lie that the West provoked the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine. They are despicable. So there we have it. Reform is a clear and present danger to our national security. Plaid Cymru is a clear and present danger to our economic security. The Liberal Democrats are irrelevant, and Labour is failing Wales. But there is hope, because we Welsh Conservatives have a credible plan to fix Wales. We are ready to cut income tax, scrap rates for small businesses, back family firms and our family farms, eliminate wasteful spending, invest in our roads, protect frontline public services, restore discipline and drive up standards in our schools, tackle the crisis in the Welsh NHS and defend our United Kingdom. We will put Wales and the people of Wales first. So my message to voters in Wales is this. If you want hope, if you want change, if you want a stronger economy and stronger borders, and if you want a Wales that works, vote Welsh Conservative to fix Wales. Thank you. Thank you.
Every area of the immigration system will be tightened up so we have more control. We're going to stop people crossing the channel in small boats.
We are now at record numbers for illegal migrants.
And we have never seen anything like that.
They're now piling more and more people on. 2 women died, a child died.
The UK is on course to have the highest migration rate in Europe.
We're higher this year than we have been in any previous year.
A new free-of-charge digital ID.
Concerns over civil rights and privacy issues.
This is the man that was going to smash the gangs.
They're coming into the country illegally, and the first thing they do is break the law. They are rewarded.
At the cost of the UK taxpayer.
The politicians that we've got in-house are clowns.
Shouldn't be leader anymore because he's useless.
It's just unfair. I already don't feel the same thing.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Conservatives love Manchester. It is a great city of free trade and free thinking. 240 years ago, in the 1780s, this was still a small market town, but something was stirring, a spirit of enterprise that would turn Manchester into a global economic powerhouse. And it was back in the 1780s that the very first Jewish community was established in this city. A small group of families worshipping in a rented room in a back alley, just a short walk from where I am standing. And right from the very start, Jewish people have been part of the fabric of Manchester. They've been adding their distinct, unique contribution to this fantastic city, while at the same time embracing Britain as their home. The horrific and despicable attack at Heaton Park Synagogue on Thursday has shocked us all. But for many in the Jewish community, it did not come as a surprise. Many have been living with a sense of rising dread that an attack like this was becoming inevitable. Yesterday, I met members of the congregation and visited the site of the attack. The strength of Manchester's Jewish community is humbling. Targeting the center of community life on the holiest day of the year was not just an attack on British Jews, it was an attack on all of us. It was an attack on our humanity and our values of freedom, compassion, and respect. It was an attack on the idea that Britain is a safe place for Jews. On Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, Jews take time for introspection, to ask themselves, where have we gone wrong in the past, and what do we need to do to be better in the future? These are questions we urgently need to ask ourselves as a nation. Extremism has gone unchecked. You see it manifest in the shameful behavior on the streets of our cities, protests which are in fact carnivals of hatred directed at the Jewish homeland. You hear it in the asinine slogans. You hear it in From the River to the Sea, as if the homes, the lives of millions of Jewish people should be erased. You hear it in Globalize the Intifada, which means nothing at all if it doesn't mean targeting Jewish people for violence. We have tolerated this in our country for too long. And we have tolerated the radical Islamist ideology that seeks to threaten not only Jews, but all of us, of all faiths and none, who want to live in peace. So the message from this conference, from this party, from every decent and right-thinking person in this country must be that we will not stand for it anymore. We cannot import and tolerate values hostile to our own. We must now draw a line and say that in Britain, you can think what you like, and within the bounds of the law, you can say what you like, but you have no right to turn our streets into the theatres of intimidation, and we will not let you do so anymore. To our Jewish friends, we stand with you shoulder to shoulder. You are part of the fabric of Britain, and you always will be. We pray for the recovery of the victims still in hospital, and we mourn with you the loss of Adrian Dalby and Melvin Kravitz. May their memories be a blessing. But we must never let terrorism defeat our democratic process. We must demonstrate that it is through political argument, not violence, that we reach our decisions and improve our country. We all know the scale of the challenge we face, the mountain we have to climb. Last year, the public sent us a clear message, one we could not mistake and which we will never forget. They want serious change, for politics to be done differently so our country can get back on track. That's what I promised you when I stood for the leadership of our party, a reset. Politics done differently, politics done properly, a Conservative Party under new leadership, ready to earn the trust of the British people again. In the last 12 months, we started doing politics in a new way. No more making the announcement first and then working out the policy details second. No more thinking that we can leave quangos and bureaucrats to their own devices and then wonder why we don't see results. No more accepting that our laws can be used as a tool to subvert democratic decisions and basic common sense. An end, once and for all, to the drift of our institutions, away from truth, honesty, and decency, and a return to values that define our country at its best. That's what this week is all about. But I didn't say it would be easy, and I didn't say it would be quick. Nothing really worth doing is. Anyone who tells you that there are easy answers to the big questions our country faces is either lying to you or lying to themselves. We are taking a new approach credible plans rooted in conservative values. Hard though the task is, we have plenty of reasons to be cheerful, because as one of my great predecessors, Margaret Thatcher, put it, the facts of life are conservative. The facts of life are conservative, Conference. The fact that countries, like families, have to live within their means. The fact that individuals know better than governments how best to spend their own money. The fact that freedom depends on order and only works under the rule of law. There is a gap for the responsible, optimistic, competent conservative approach, an approach rooted in values. Values like personal responsibility. As my dad often said to me, only 20% of what happens to you is down to others. 80% is down to your actions and your choices. Like citizenship, a commitment to a country and the people in it. Family, in different shapes and sizes, the bedrock of social stability and the foundation of our society. Freedom, freedom to think, to speak, and to live as each of us chooses. These are the values of British people. They are crying out for a politics rooted in those values, which puts their needs first. Conference, they are crying out for a stronger economy, where hard work is rewarded and everyone has a chance to get on. For stronger borders, where we control who comes here and can remove those with no right to stay. This is our political DNA as Conservatives. Our job is to prove to the country that we are the only party that can deliver it. Conference, post-war, Conservatives spread prosperity and built millions of new homes, the bedrock of the property-owning democracy. In the 1980s, Mrs. Thatcher broke the cycle of high inflation, low growth, and trade union strife, giving Britain back her national pride and economic strength. Labour accuse us of achieving nothing in the 14 years since 2010. I'll tell you what we did. Remember what we inherited from them back then. They spent all the money, sold the gold, piled up debt. Like every Labour government in history, they left unemployment higher than they found it. We were elected to fix it, and Conservatives got to work. We slashed the deficit every year so that when the pandemic hit, we had the means to weather the storm. We reformed our schools to put rigour back into the curriculum, and today a whole generation of young people will enter the world with better maths and literary skills than any generation before them. We reformed welfare. We got people into work. 4 million new jobs were created, over 1 million new businesses. We gave the British people a choice on our membership of the EU, and we implemented that decision. And what followed? The fastest vaccine rollout in the West. Billions of pounds worth of trade deals. No other party would have done these things, but they were right for our country, and we can all be proud of them. And Conference, we mustn't forget that in each election, from 2010 to 2019, our vote share went up. That's unprecedented in modern history, and the British people don't get it wrong. But if we take pride in what we got right, we also have to face up to what we got wrong. People won't listen to us again until we show them we have learned from our mistakes and changed. We've got to do this, and we have to do it properly. What have we learned? That you can't have a budget that has £150 billion of spending giveaways and billions more in tax cuts without saying where the money is coming from. We have to show that we have learned from the policy mistake of letting bureaucrats decide the immigration system. We failed to bring numbers down and stop the boats. Let's be honest, that happened on our watch. Yes, we tried, but put simply, we didn't achieve enough. After years of responsible and effective government, our mistakes on the economy and on immigration lost us the trust and confidence of the public. So we start this week saying we have learned, and we will never repeat the financial irresponsibility of spending commitments without saying where the money is coming from. Never Again conference. This week, we will set out how we have changed, how we will be different, and most importantly, how we will make a difference. Economic responsibility is the hallmark of the Conservative approach, and today it is right back at the heart of everything we stand for. We may be in Manchester, but the theme of economic responsibility will run through this conference like the words in a stick of Blackpool rock. There are two parts of our message at this conference: stronger economy, stronger borders. It is stronger borders that I want to talk to you about today. I was elected leader because I promised to renew this party and our policies, so we can win the next election and then rewire the state to make it work for people again. We are not interested in superficial fixes. Instead, we are taking a systemic approach, asking the difficult questions that others avoid. We have the courage to follow through with credible plans to answer them. It's the rigorous, practical, Conservative way. And on so many of those questions, the answers come back to the same thing. Why is it that every time we try to build anything in this country, we have to spend millions of pounds on paperwork and still get bogged down in litigation? Why are protesters allowed to block roads and disrupt lives time and time again? Why are our veterans relentlessly chased through the courts by activist lawyers? Why couldn't we deport those foreign nationals who raped girls in communities across the UK? Why do we still allow them to remain in the very same towns where their victims live? Why? It is fundamental. Why can't we control our borders and remove those who need to go? All these questions boil down to who should make the laws that govern the United Kingdom. Conservatives believe it should be our sovereign parliament, accountable to the British people. The reality today is that this is simply not the case. I saw it again and again in government. So often we had the right instincts and the right policies, but our hands were tied by a system that frustrated democratic control. This use of litigation as a political weapon is what I call lawfare. Well-meaning treaties and statutes like the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Convention on Action Against Trafficking, drafted with the best of intentions in generations gone by, and more recent additions like the Modern Slavery Act, are now being used in ways never intended by their original authors. What should be shields to protect the vulnerable have instead become swords to attack democratic decisions and frustrate common sense. Conference, this isn't just damaging our security, it's also damaging our prosperity. It is that whole system which we need to reform, and the place to start is the European Convention on Human Rights. None of us had a problem with the rights in the original charter. It was drafted in 1950 by British lawyers, conservative lawyers, and it drew on British traditions. The problems stem from how it has been enforced and how its meaning has been twisted and changed. Today, it is used as a block on deportations, a weapon against veterans, and a barrier to sentencing and public order. Labour pretend it can be fixed. But when a group of 9 European countries, led by Italy, recently pushed for reforms at the court, the Labour government did not support them. They wouldn't even try. Our human rights lawyer Prime Minister and his good friend, the Attorney General, an Attorney General who likened those of us questioning ECHR membership to Nazis, will never fix this problem. Instead, conference, they have gone in the opposite direction, paying to surrender British territory in the Chagos Islands and plotting to force everyone in this country to carry Starmer's digital ID. Conference, we will fight them every step of the way. Reform just shout that we should leave the ECHR without any plan to do so or understanding any of the consequences. They are practicing that old failed politics I talked about, that politics of announcements without a plan. That is the way to chaos and failure. It is only the Conservatives who are taking the honest, responsible approach, prepared with a plan to deliver. To make sure we can strike at the root of the problem, we need to understand the full extent of the problem. That's why I had identified 5 essential policies that the government must be able to implement if we are to secure our border and restore order to our society. 5 tests that a country has to pass to be truly sovereign. First, can we deport foreign criminals and those who are here illegally? Second, can we stop our veterans being harassed through the courts? Third, can we put British citizens first for social housing and public services? Fourth, can we make sure protests do not intimidate people or stop them living their lives? And finally, can we stop endless red tape and legal challenges just choking off economic growth? Any self-respecting sovereign nation should be able to answer all 5 of those questions with a clear yes. Conference, anything that is stopping us from doing so is a barrier we have to remove. So I asked the Shadow Attorney General, the distinguished King's Counsel, Lord Wolfson, to lead an in-depth analysis. The question I posed was whether these 5 tests can be lawfully met as a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights, bound by the court in Strasbourg. And I want to thank Lord Wolfson for his immense and detailed work. So forensic, so thorough. Thank you. In nearly 200 pages of legal advice, he has provided his answer. This is what he said. When it comes to control of our sovereign borders, preventing our military veterans from being pursued indefinitely, ensuring prison sentences are applied rigorously for serious crimes, stopping disruptive protests, or placing blanket restrictions on foreign nationals in terms of social housing and benefits, the only way such positions are feasible would be to leave the ECHR. And so to me and the Shadow Cabinet, the resulting policy decision is also clear. We must leave the ECHR and repeal the Human Rights Act. Conference, I want you to know that the next Conservative manifesto will contain our commitment to leave. Leaving the convention is a necessary step, but it is not enough on its own to achieve our goals. If there are other treaties and other laws we need to revise or revisit, then we will do so. And we will do so in the same calm and responsible way, working out the detail before we rush to announce. The rights we enjoy did not come from the ECHR. They were there for hundreds of years in our common law. Parliament has legislated over centuries to reflect and protect our freedoms. Human rights in the United Kingdom did not start in 1998 with the Human Rights Act, and they will not end with it. As we work through our detailed plan, we are clear that leaving the ECHR and repealing the Human Rights Act will not mean that we lose any of the rights we cherish. But this is the only way to end spurious legal claims from immigrants with dubious stories and excuses. This is the only way to allow a British government, the next Conservative government, to deliver a British borders plan in full. Conference, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has done a brilliant job pulling together this borders plan. The Conservatives are a strong team, and he will be saying more about this shortly, including our plans to remove 150,000 illegal migrants a year. Lord Wolfson has also advised that leaving the ECHR is fully compatible with the Belfast Agreement, the Good Friday Agreement, but I know that there will be particular challenges in Northern Ireland. But difficulties are not a reason to avoid action. They are a reason to work harder to get it right. So, thank you. So, to ensure that this is an orderly and respectful process across the whole United Kingdom, I am asking Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary Alex Burghardt to lead a review into union-wide implementation. So at the next election, we will present the people of the United Kingdom with a clear, thorough and robust plan. Not the vague mush that we see day in, day out from Labour, nor the vacuous posturing that we see day in, day out from Reform. Conference. You would have seen last week both Labour and Reform shouting at one another, trading insults instead of solutions. One flings around the word racist and will not be realistic about what is going wrong. The other whips up outrage, offering simplistic answers that will fall apart on first contact with reality. That is not serious politics. Conference, neither of those parties offers the leadership that Britain deserves. The truth is that Labour and Reform are two sides of the same coin. Both deal in grievance. Both divide our country into tribes and labels. Both practice identity politics, which will destroy our country. And I am saying no, no to division and no to identity politics. Conference, what Britain needs is national unity. I am black. I am a woman. I am a Conservative. And I know that identity politics is a trap. It reduces people to categories and then pits them against each other. But I am more than black, female, and even Conservative. I am British. Conference, I am British, as we all are. My children are British, and I will not allow anyone on the left to tell them that they belong in a different category, or anyone on the right to tell them that they do not belong in their own country. Yes, Britain is a multiracial country. That is part of our modern story. But it must never become a multicultural country where shared values dissolve, loyalty fragments, and we foment the homegrown terrorism that we saw on the streets of Manchester this week. Nations cannot survive on diversity alone. We need a strong common culture, rooted in our history, our language, our institutions, and our belief in liberty under the law. That is what holds us together, and that is why borders matter, why numbers matter, but most of all, why culture matters. Who comes here, why they come, and how they contribute. That is how we protect the inheritance that generations before us fought for and died for. Britain needs deep change. But I reject the politics that everything must go, that everything must be torn down, that everything is broken. But if we leave it to Labour or Reform, Britain will be divided. Only the Conservatives can bring this country back together. This is a battle we must win. By combining secure borders with a shared culture, strong values, and the confidence of a great nation, we can win the debate and win the next election. Conference, this is a party under new leadership and with a renewed purpose. We have listened, we have learned, and we have changed. Only Conservatives will tell you the truth. Only Conservatives will take the difficult decisions, do the hard work. Only Conservatives have the courage, the honesty, and the plan to strengthen our borders, restore our sovereignty, and rebuild our prosperity. So I say to you all, as we start our conference, yes, we have a mountain to climb, but we have a song in our hearts, and we are up for the fight. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Phil.
Great, well, thank you, Conference. That was an incredible speech by Kemi just then. Like Kemi, let me start by condemning the appalling terrorist attack in this city last Thursday. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families whose lives on that holy Yom Kippur morning were so wickedly torn apart. But we will also stay strong in the face of terror. We will never change our way of life because we are stronger than them. And I know everyone in this hall and beyond will renew their resolve to fight the ancient evil of anti-Semitism wherever it is found. It has no place in any civilized country, not in our United Kingdom, not ever. And if a foreign citizen expresses racial hatred, including anti-Semitism, or supports extremism or terrorism, I'll tell you this, as Home Secretary, I'll deport them. And I would like to thank the police and security services who responded so fast last week. They take risks up and down the country every day to protect us, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. Thank you. Conference, this is a historic moment. As the leader just announced, we have concluded it is right for our country to leave the ECHR. This is not a decision taken lightly. We have thought long and hard. And unlike others, we did not leap without first carefully considering all the implications. And I thank Lord Wolfson for his detailed and masterful analysis. There he is. Thank you, David. We are, of course, deeply aware of why the convention was originally written. in the aftermath of the horrors that ravaged Europe in the 1930s and 1940s, and we remain as committed as ever to protecting rights and the rule of law. But the way the courts now interpret the ECHR make it unrecognisable from the system which Winston Churchill first helped shape. And we are clear about this. The ability to control our country's borders is non-negotiable. We will not and we cannot compromise on the ability of our democratically elected parliament to set the laws that govern who comes here and who stays. Because if we can't control our borders, then we are no country at all. With no border control, we would lose our identity and we would lose our security. And this party will always protect our identity and will always protect our security. Now, the small boat crisis has brought this issue into sharp focus. The government said they would smash the gangs. Well, that is now laughable, because so far all they've smashed are records for illegal arrivals. This year has been the worst in history. This Labour government has lost control of our borders. They are weak and they have let Britain down. The Prime Minister's latest gimmick is his one-in, one-out deal with France. Since that deal was announced, 11,000 illegal immigrants have come in and about 7 have gone out. Even Rachel Reeves, with her dubious CV, can tell that doesn't add up. And every single Channel migrant coming here is doing so illegally. They are paying people smugglers. They are departing from France, a safe country. These journeys are unnecessary. And we have seen some terrible crimes committed by migrants who came on small boats and were accommodated in hotels at our expense. Let me tell you about Abdul Rahman Abu Alayla. He is a 42-year-old Egyptian illegal immigrant who came here by small boat. He was accommodated in a Hilton hotel in Ealing at our expense. He then proceeded to brutally rape a young woman who was walking home at night in Hyde Park. She was alone and she was vulnerable. It now turns out that Abdul Rahman also has convictions in Egypt as an Islamist terrorist. In another case, a 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by a Channel migrant who later said, in his culture, that was acceptable behaviour. This is sick. We must do whatever it takes to end this madness. It is now clear to this new leadership that our international obligations have been stopping us from acting effectively. We experienced this in government, and the decision to leave the ECHR was reached partly as a result of that. And now, as Lord Wolfson has clearly advised, and I quote, ECHR membership places significant practical limits on the UK's ability to maintain control of our borders, and that is why we must come out, because this party is determined to control our borders. And to those who say this will make us an international pariah, where rights are casually disregarded, I say, look at Australia or Canada. They aren't in the ECHR, and they are doing very well indeed. And the UK is the land of the original Bill of Rights, the body of common law, the writ of habeas corpus, and protections in law which Parliament has passed. Our rights in this country long predate the ECHR. And to those who say we must stay in the ECHR to somehow set an example to others, I ask this: does our membership of the ECHR really make the slightest difference to the way Russia or China behaves? No, of course not. The ECHR started as a noble endeavour, but it has become twisted by judges, expanding the meaning of well-intentioned but vaguely worded clauses. Shocking examples of this abound, like a paedophile not returned to Zimbabwe in case he faces hostility there, without a single thought for the rights of children in this country to be protected. Or a drug dealer not returned to Iraq because the court said he was too westernised. or a violent murderer not returned to Uganda because the court said mental health services in Uganda apparently are not as good as they are here. All ECHR cases. These criminals are still in the UK. They're still all posing a risk to our citizens, all thanks to the ECHR. So this madness must end. But as Lord Wolfson very wisely said, leaving the ECHR alone is not enough. We need a full plan, a complete plan, to fix Labour's borders crisis, which leaving the ECHR enables. And let me be clear about this. The Reform Party has not bothered to develop such a plan. They trumpet slogans, dreamt up in a pub, and written on the back of a fag packet, but they have not done the detailed work needed to make real change happen. Well, this party has done the work. It's called the Borders Plan, and we published it today. Enabled by the ECHR exit, we will ban all asylum and other claims by illegal immigrants. And this will mean all of those arriving illegally, including by small boat, will be immediately deported back to their country of origin if possible, or to a third country like Rwanda, if not, within a week of arrival. There we are. And the deterrent effect of that, will mean people will rapidly stop bothering to attempt the crossing in the first place. Why would you attempt the crossing if you're going to be immediately removed? It worked in Australia 12 years ago. It is working in the United States of America this year, and it will work here too. And we will also deport all foreign criminals, not some, all. There are currently about 20,000 serious foreign criminals roaming our streets who should have been deported already. They have gone on to commit between them a further 10,000 offences, including murder and rape. It still shocks me to this day that Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood signed a letter opposing the deportation of dangerous foreign criminals to Jamaica, one of whom later went on to commit murder here after he should have been deported. Well, we won't be signing letters like that. Instead, we will deport all those who pose a danger to the public, and that means deporting every single foreign criminal. And we will also end the legal quagmire with endless appeals and judicial reviews, made up and contradictory claims being heard, lawyers running up huge legal aid bills. I hope there are none of them here. One man claimed asylum. You won't believe this. One man claimed asylum saying he was Iraqi. And then, when that claim was rejected, he said he'd suddenly remembered that in fact he was Iranian. And the whole process started again. And then there was the notorious case of a man called Yaqub Ahmed, a Somali man who participated in the brutal gang rape of a 16-year-old girl. After his sentence in prison had finished, it took us 8 years to deport Ahmed because he made repeated asylum, human rights, and modern slavery claims. Many migrants make claims on the eve of deportation to stay here, usually very shortly after they meet a taxpayer-funded lawyer who tells them what they need to say. Judges accept all kinds of nonsensical arguments. Just last week, 8 Afghans who can't speak a single word of English were allowed into the UK from Turkey, a safe country, on tenuous human rights grounds. And some immigration tribunal judges were previously open borders campaigners. You literally couldn't make this up. So, we will abolish the immigration tribunal entirely, with decisions taken inside the Home Office. There won't be any immigration judicial review except on the narrow grounds of statutory power, and we will completely end the legal aid gravy train by abolishing it. People don't need lawyers to make their claims. They just need to tell the truth, and their claim will be fairly decided. And we will compel countries to take back their own nationals. If a country won't take back their own citizens, where they commit a crime or have no right to be here, we will simply stop issuing entry visas to nationals of those countries to come here. We will use those visa sanctions and withdraw overseas aid to countries who don't take back their own nationals. We take back ours, and they should do the same. We will also create a new removals force in the Home Office, doubling the current budget to £1.6 billion. And by stripping away all of those legal obstacles that I've described and doubling the budget, we can remove 150,000 people a year that have no legal right to be here. That is 750,000 over the course of the next Parliament. This illegal immigration scandal will end. So, conference, we have a plan. Leave the ECHR. Deport all illegal immigrants immediately upon arrival and all foreign criminals. A new force to remove 150,000 people a year with no right to be here. Abolish the Immigration Tribunal. End judicial review and legal aid in immigration cases, and make sure countries take back their own citizens just as we do. Now, we have thought deeply about this. Our plan is radical, yes. Not because we are ideologues, but because this plan has to be radical in order to work. The old ways have been tried, and they have failed. That's why a new approach is needed. Now, we have taken our time over this, and some people have criticised us for that. But we are now the only party that has a plan which is not only radical, but will actually work in practice. So now the Conservative Party is back with the resolve to do what is needed to protect our country's borders, back with determination to ensure the laws passed by our Parliament are actually implemented, and back with a plan to end illegal immigration. Thank you.